This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
Hi, this is Will, and my Shattergang Brothers Commander deck. What's up guys, this is Will, again, my Commander deck, Shattergang Brothers. This deck is focused on making lots of tokens, and you sacrifice them to make certain creatures bigger, and to control the board. And there are a few creatures that involve tokens that win conditions, like Craterhoof Behemoth. We have Shattergang Brothers Commander. Our tutors are, we have Demonic Tutor, and then Liliana Vess, who's a tutor on a stick, with a controlling ability of players discarding cards. And then the -8 is nice if you have creatures that are dead. Next, we have our token makers. Avenger of Zendikar. A few of these cards I had the proxy up to me, because I'm sending the others to be some of them to be altered. We have Avenger of Zendikar to make lots of 1/1 plants. 0/1 plants, my bad, that you can sacrifice and do stuff with. Funny story, I had a friend who was playing a deck. I had this deck. He really liked Path to Exile. He was playing white, blue, black. Lots of graveyard recursion stuff. He had Path to Exile. He Path to Exile, let me get a land. And he just kept doing all sorts of things. He'd Snapcaster. He'd keep Path to Exiling my commander, but I'd choose to send him to the command zone instead. And I'd keep getting lands. And he did all sorts of ways to get that Path to Exile back and keep using it. And I ended up with, like, all the lands in my deck, which is 38. And then I managed to draw into Avenger of Zendikar. 38 0/1 tokens. Yeah. But yeah. And he's a 5/5 himself. On a, Ant Queen. One of my favorite token producers. It's a 5/5 on a stick. Cheap ability to make infinite 1/1s. And for 5, and not 7. Night Soil, because there will be a few creatures that you don't want sitting in your graveyard, but you don't want in your hand, so you can get rid of them to make a token. And then if you have Primal Vigor out, you can make multiple. Walker of the Grove, whoops, because he's a 7/7 beater, and if he dies, or if he gets bounced, you get a 4/4, and then you play him again. You can keep doing that, and you can use stuff like Phyrexian Reclamation. But yeah, you really don't want. And if you can pay the evoke cost, you should just get a 4/4, and then you can Reclamation to get him back once you have the mana too. We have Michaeloth next. He is the token producer that produces the most tokens out of any card in this deck. It's Michaeloth. Especially if you use Endrixar to make tons of Thralls, who's the Endrixar Master Breeder, and then make tons of Thralls and then just devour all of them and use all sorts of things to put counters on things like Jund Charm, Liliana War Reborn, that stuff. And then he can get really big and make lots of tokens every turn. And then things like Craterhoof Behemoth, they get better in this case. And then we have Jade Mage, every turn make infinite saplings if you manage to find a infinite mana thing combo. This deck doesn't have any, so you wouldn't find them in this deck. But in other decks, you could infinite combo mana to make thousands of saplings. Ophiomancer, because a 1/1 Death Touch Snake every upkeep is nice enough as a blocker, then you can sacrifice him. And then the aforementioned Endrixar Master Breeder. This guy's nice because there's a few big creatures that you can cast. Big mana cost. 6, 7, 8. Then you can get lots of thralls. And, yeah, make lots of 1/1 tokens to do stuff. And then you sacrifice him. So his ability will trigger on certain cards like Kresh. He'll get 2 counters, which is nice. Then we have Mogg War Marshal, because you get 3 dudes pretty much for the price of 1, although one of them will die. Will have to die to get you another dude, which itself is nice ability. Is a nice ability because you get 1/1s, right? And you don't have to pay the echo. Usually you don't pay the echo, but. And then we have Hammer of Perforos, because you can make tokens that are all the 3 types that you could sacrifice to Shattergang brothers, which is nice. Tempt of Vengeance really was one of the more political oriented cards in the deck towards multiplayer. The more 1/1s your opponents decide to make, the more 1/1s you get, is all I have to say. And lots of 1/1s is good. Artifact Mutation, which has saved my neck a few times. I mean, even if you have to mutation your Solemn Simulacrum, if you're that desperate for card draw, you still get 4 1/1 Saprolings. And the reason Saprolings are one of the main things, main tokens this deck produces, is because we have a few cards that interact mostly with Saprolings. So, might as well. And yeah, you can store pesky artifacts or just give it use Simulacrum if you absolutely need to. It was going to be eventually shown. Sprouting Thrinax, because you sacrifice him as a creature, and you get 3 1/1s, which is in itself nice. And then there are even Saprolings too. And then more Saprolings. Golgari Germination, because a few creatures like Mogg War Marshal, Ish Sah, Walker of the Grove, and Shriekmaw, and occasionally your win conditions will die. And if you have certain cards like Phyrexian Reclamation, you can let your general die, but a lot of the times you don't want to. So you'll be having a few creatures dying, so you'll get 1/1 Saprolings. Next up, we have our more win conditions that we want to hold until opportune moments. Massacre Wurm, we want to hold until we know all our opponent's creatures are, sorry for shaking, are going to die from his Enter the Battlefield ability, and that they're going to be losing lots of life. Of course, it's also 6 mana, so we may not get the Craterhoof Behemoth, 8 mana, he's been mentioned, haste. This guy we want to use when we have lots of tokens that either have haste, which not many produce. None of our tokens except for Perforos Hammer produces haste tokens. Even then, they're not even haste. They given haste by him, which is also a nice ability with him, even though he has haste, because he it's awesome. I mean, plus X. If you have lots of tokens, as soon as this hits the board, it's GG. Of course, each creature getting plus X, where X is creatures in and of itself. If you have 6 creatures, each creature you control is getting +6/+6 and trample. In and of itself is quite nice. And then we have Golgari Grave-Troll, which just gets bigger and then he comes back. I mean, you won't have many creature cards, but he'll still. And, I mean, as long as you general or another primary win condition, you need to be sitting there. If it dies early on, and you don't have a way to get it back, he'll still be quite large and just sitting there, large and in charge. And then the Dredge 6 is also nice in case he dies. To, you'll be able to also fill up your graveyard and bring him back to your hand. And then you can remove a 1/1 counter to regenerate him to save him. So he's one of the win conditions. Kresh is one of the better ones because tokens hit the graveyard. Pretty sure. Of course, don't quote me on this. Tokens hit the graveyard and then disappear as an effect. So he gets your counters. And I mean, 5 mana, 2/3/3 isn't nice, but his ability is amazing when you have lots of creatures just dying everywhere. This deck's motto is actually, what's it matter if you're dead or alive? You're still in misery. Next up we have Deathbringer Thoctar, who is another Kresh, although it's almost exactly like Kresh, except you deal damage with him. And it's a mix between Kresh and Grave-Troll, where you're removing a counter like on Grave-Troll, but this time to deal damage. But his counters are put on him when a creature dies. And sadly, what makes him not as good as Kresh, it's only one counter, but he's still pretty nice. I've gotten him up to be high enough to deal I got him up to a 14-14 once, because the match went on that long. Next up we have our things that work well with sacrificing that we really want to keep on the board, but if we need to and are absolutely desperate, we can get rid of with Shattergang brothers to do stuff. We have Butcher of Mauna Kea. A flying 5/4 is quite nice, especially when here you get to, each player is going to be sacrificing more. Okay, there's multiple effects like this in the deck, and I'm pretty sure they stack, right? I'm pretty sure, do they stack? I don't know. I'm just gonna, we usually let them stack in our play group that I play in. So, yeah. So I've gotten it to where people are sacrificing 4 creatures, and I'm just sacrificing a token, a 1/1 token, and people are sacrificing 4 of their commanders, their Tarmogoyfs. Yes, we've actually had a person put the Tarmogoyf in their commander deck once. Weird. Dictate of Erebos. It's pretty much the same, except 2 mana cheaper, so it comes out earlier, and it has flash, which is nice. It's another one of those effects. Shriekmaw for 5, you get a 3/2 with fear, which isn't really nice, but you can invoke it for 2, which you're going to be doing most of the time. When it comes into play, destroy a target non-black creature, which is nice. Very, very nice. You're destroying a creature for 2, and with Reclamation, you're just paying 2 life to get it back. And with cards in here like Wight of Precinct, you are going to be killing many creatures. This one's another politically oriented card if you can get it to stick via Requiem. If they have lots of threats, you can always threaten to sacrifice it to destroy them. And when you put verse counters on it, as long as you can keep this thing sticking, your opponents are going to not want to play their big threats, as long as they're, of course, not black. But yeah. And then more effects like this, except different, are Stronghold Assassin. For 3, you get a 2/1 zombie assassin. You tap him to sacrifice a creature to destroy a creature, which itself is nice. Here's a card that I like. Reassembling Skeleton. Sacrifice him, and then anytime you want, bring him back to the battlefield, so you can infinite sacrifice him, as long as you've got the mana. Attrition, it's another Stronghold Assassin, although this time instead of tapping it, you pay a black. It's quite nice. Yes, I like it, and it's old. It's one of the old cards in the deck that does the stuff I like. Yeah. Don't judge. Sepulchral Primordial. For 7, you get a 5/4 with Intimidate. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may put a creature from their graveyard into play under your control. No, this is for the rest of the game. We have a few people that like to leave their generals in their graveyards. One of them is a Gerard, which is nice because I just always, every time I play this, always steal his Gerard, and he can't get it back until it dies, because I'm mean. Wight of Precinct 6. This, of course, can be a very big beater because your opponents are going to be sacrificing plenty of creatures. So this guy is going to be pretty large and in charge pretty fast. We have Mass Mutiny for 5. Of course, for each opponent, gain control of up to 1 creature that player controls till end of turn. Untap those creatures. They gain haste. So you can steal their generals, as long as the spell resolves, and attack with them when they're big, or steal their biggest creatures, or just steal their best creatures and sacrifice them if you have the mana for it. I've done all of those things before, and the people, they hate it. They rage every time, although they always have to admit it's a good play. Goblin Sharpshooter. This guy mixed with Basilisk Collar, I'm gaining almost infinite amounts of life and killing creatures. Yeah, because a lot of people, they play token decks, although their token decks are 1/1 saplings, so they're going to be dying anyways, but the almost infinite life is good. Stalking Vengeance. He's a utility card that's nice when his effect happens because you get to deal damage to its power to a player. So if you have a player who's been annoying you, and he has all sorts of creatures, and he's just been like being just annoying or just being a jerk, let's go ahead and sacrifice your creatures to clear his board, and then deal that damage to him with Stalking Vengeance, to show him it's not nice to burn people or get rid of their stuff or do all that stuff. Goblin Bombardment. It's another way you can sacrifice creatures to get Kresh and crap, what's it called again? I forgot. The card I just showed you, 6 mana. Crap, Blackguard. Oh yeah, the Deathbringer Thoctar. Sorry. His ability effect, and you get to ping off creatures or players. A lot of the time this is going to players because you're just pinging them off to trigger their abilities. Here's a card I've been talking about that does stuff with saplings. Life and Limb. This turns all your forests and all your saplings into 1/1 saplings and forest lands in addition to their other types. So you can sacrifice forests as tokens or use them to trigger Craterhoof Behemoth. And there's this guy on our group who plays Omnath. So I'll just be mean with like 1 forest or 1 way to get green mana. I'll play this and then just board, and then watch his other players just board wipe, getting rid of all his saplings, all his forests too, and just be mean like that when he's just being straight up annoying to me. Other times I just do it because then I'll be able to tap all my saplings I get from like Mycoloth for mana, which is quite nice when you can get like 20 mana just from saplings. It'd be green mana though, but whatever. And then we have Life from the Loam to return creatures, or not creatures, what am I talking about? Return lands I have to sacrifice with Hammer of Purphoros to my hand. And the Dredge 3 also allows me to make my Grave-Troll bigger if I have him out. Fecundity. This is another one of those political cards I could probably find in the green, red, and black colors, a card that makes me just me draw a card. But this is for the political aspect. When people's creatures are dying, letting them draw cards is of course not good, because you'll often be drawing more cards than me. But it'll say, hey, this guy's letting me draw lots of cards. Let's not attack him despite his annoying board clearing. Which is nice when I don't have people constantly attacking me and blowing up my crap. Primal Vigor was mentioned before. This is really good because it puts another counter. Wait. Yeah, it puts twice that many counters. Wait, hold on. Yeah, so it'll make your Kresh 2 times bigger with this out, and you'll get 2 times more tokens from that Mycoloth you got sitting on the battlefield with 10 counters on it from Devour. Skull Clamp. If you have mana and 1/1 tokens, you're drawing lots of cards. Already mentioned with this is in synergy with Sharpshooter. Gain lots of life and clear out boards pretty quickly. Carnage Altar, because you draw a card for sacking 1/1 saplings or insects, or even your 4/4 if you don't like to bash in with it a couple times. Swiftfoot Boots, because giving your general hexproof is quite nice, or giving that Mycoloth hexproof so nobody can kill it is quite nice. The only thing that you should be worried about then is a board wipe, which, knowing the commander format, plenty of. Spine of Ish Sah. It's a Vindicate for 7 mana, which is not very good. But the fact that it comes back to your hand makes it really good. Repeatable. Non-stop. Pernicious Deed for black or green colors. This is one of the more social cards. You can blow up an entire player's board with this card if they're being annoying to you. Because this gets rid of everything. Let me see it. Oh, it destroys it. I was gonna say, does it make them sacrifice it? Because if so, that means it get around indestructible, but they just destroy it. Still quite nice though, because it's getting rid of artifacts, enchantments, and creatures. Too bad it doesn't get rid of planeswalkers though, but you've got ways to do that. Reaper of the Wilds, because being able to have a 4 or 5 hexproof or death touch creature, or even both if you have the mana, in and of itself is quite nice on turn 4 if you draw it, or you can even tutor for it. But the fact that when other creatures die, you scry is nice. You get to control your draws with creatures dying. Mogis, God of Slaughter. He could be turned into a creature quite quickly because most of the deck is black and red, or has black or red with other colors. But the fact that he's a 7/5 in and of itself is nice. Indestructible, even better. Icing on the cake, he is a clock that never stops ticking unless he's exiled or tucked, which gets hard. Unless they have a Karn, which, yeah, quite nice in and of itself. Fell Shepherd, 8/6, lets you bring everything back, and you can sacrifice creatures to kill stuff. I like them. Faded Return. You can let your commander sit under the yard instead of a board wipe, and then before the board wipe, you use this card, and you get to, let's see, scry 2? Yes. And your eel gain indestructible. So, or if there's a big creature and you know they have a board wipe, or a doom blade or something, or a way to kill the creature, and you play this, it's indestructible. They can't get rid of it, and it's going to stay there. And you get to scry 2. It won't be going anywhere. And then we have Bavaro Bose, as mentioned before. Creatures you control get lifelink. It's quite nice because you'll be having big creatures by the time you're swinging. And the fact that you can just whip something back, although it does get exiled at the end of turn, is nice. It lets you get a second activation on the Sepulchral Primordial. And the fact that they stay under your control is nice, along with the fact that you can activate it twice. And then the next card we have is Vigor Mortis, because bringing back creatures you need like 7 cards for in this type of deck. But the fact that it'll be getting 1/1+1/+1 counters on it most of the time, because you'll often be spending green mana too. So, and then we have Phyrexian Reclamation, the card I have already mentioned. Funny story, I did have a non-foil one in the deck. A friend of mine said, you know what, because I also have a Prosh commander deck because I like Jund. He said, you know, I'll play you with my Omnath deck versus your Prosh deck. If you win, you get my foil Phyrexian Reclamation for your Shattergang Brothers deck, because I know you need one. I was like, okay. But yeah, I managed to get turn 1 Mana Crypt. I played Mountain, Mana Crypt. Then managed to get turn 1 Darksteel Ingot. Then turn 2 ramped into Azusa, Lost But Seeking. And then I managed to get my commander out turn 3. It was a pretty epic win. And I managed to get foil Phyrexian Reclamation. Pretty awesome. Reincarnation for some green recursion. Pretty nice being able to trade a 1/1 for a 5/5 if you have mana. Regrowth, nice and simple. Return a card from your graveyard to your hand. Glissa, you can just block with her, or even just let her sit there with your commander on the field for her ability to work. It's nice. Stronghold Wurm, because having a 6/6 with graveyard recursion and trample is nice. Too bad it's for 7. 7 men. But we have our ramp spells here to help you get there. You have Spoils of War. Dawn's Reflection, because paying a land, having a land that taps for mana and the 3 mana is nice. Especially since you can tap him for the combination of your colors. Sakura Tribe Elder, because your creatures like Thoctar, Grave-Troll, and Kresh all work with this guy, and it's nice. Oracle of Modiah, so you can see your top card of your library, which is nice. And extra lands. Xenagos, to make dudes and mana. Simulacrum, because searching for a land and then drawing a card is nice together. Soul Ring, because it's Soul Ring, it's commander, come on. Obelisk of Jund, so you can hit your 3rd color. Command Tower, so you can get the colors you need. Savage Lands, more color you need. Temple of the False God, colorless mana. Same with Opal Palace, Svagthos Restless Tomb, and Care Keep, although Keep also makes 0/1s to sacrifice. Jund Panorama makes colorless, so lets you search for basics. And Terramorphic Expanse lets you search for basics. We have the 3 Scry Lands, the 3 colored Scry Lands for our colors, the 3 Karoo Lands, the Bounce Lands, and the 3 Shock Lands too. We also have Colony Garden for 0/1s, Liana War Reborn for counters on Michaeloth, we have 6 forests, 6 swamps, and 5 mountains. Thank you for watching Commander Decks, and don't forget to like and favorite.